नमस्कार राजन सर। अभी बस थोड़ी देर में स्टार्ट करते हैं। अभी और थोड़े लोग जुड़ जाएं।
अच्छा, हो गया, ठीक है, ठीक है, ओके। हाँ, उपदेश जी, आवाज, माय वॉइस इज कमिंग ओके?
कब तक प्ले करेंगे? बस थोड़ी देर तक।
हाँ, गुड आफ्टरनून उपदेश जी, यू आर एबल टू हेयर माय वॉइस?
अजी सर, आपकी आपकी ना, राजन सर आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही। आप थोड़ा सा वॉल्यूम करिएगा।
ओके। वॉल्यूम तो फुल पे है ऑलरेडी अभी। नाउ इज इट कमिंग?
हेलो।
हाँ उपदेश जी, अभी आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ जी, क्लियर आ रही है सर, क्लियर आ रही है बिल्कुल।
ओके।
जी जी जी। तो अभी 1-2 मिनट में शुरू कर दें, इतने और पार्टिसिपेंट भी जुड़ जाएंगे सर।
ठीक है।
जी। Okay, so welcome you all to the this webinar series which we are conducting in online mode and on the energy related issues. And today's webinar will be on hydrogen energy for sustainable development, in which we have three guests. One is Surya Kamal Dattaji, who is our chief guest, Mr. Rajan Vashneji, who is Vice President of NEEV as well as DGM of NTPC, and Kaustubji, who is a technical expert, and they will share their experience how they can generate from biomass to hydrogen energy. So presently, we will start our NEEV webinar, and we are waiting for our chief guest to be in. So I think he will be joining soon. I think I will introduce about NEEV in the meanwhile, what NEEV is doing and what we are doing in energy sector as well as in some other areas. So I will share the presentation of NEEV. Rajan sir, can you see my presentation? Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So let's start. Like NEEV is a National Education Management in Villages, which is a social education initiative of IIT alumni. Nowadays, a lot of people have joined from all across the India as well as from the neighboring countries for this noble initiative. These are the office bearers: Professor Birpal ji, Vice President; Advocate Haridat Verma ji, President; Shri Rajan Vashne ji, Vice President; Professor Anil Kumar Malik, Treasurer; Dr. Vijay Kumar Tiwari, Joint Secretary, and myself, Coordinator of NEEV. The aim of the NEEV is very clear: to empower Indians by enriching them with quality education in villages, slums, as well as tribal areas. So we generally work on villages, slum, and tribal areas. Also, our vision is clear: like if poor cannot come to education or school, then education or school must go to them. So we are doing that. If poor cannot come to education, then we are making our centers or education school to their slum areas as well as the villages areas. Make every Indian educated, aware about duties and rights. Make India and its people self-reliant. It is the mission of our NEEV. तो ये हम लोगों ने काम करा है, जो कि अभी कोविड शुरू हुआ था 2019 से स्टार्ट हो गया था, बट 2020 में केसेस बढ़ने शुरू हुए थे इंडिया में. तो हम लोगों ने ये कोविड रिलीफ वर्क स्टार्ट करा था, और उसके कुछ ग्लिम्स हैं ये, जहाँ पे हमने IIT दिल्ली के हमारे साथी हैं डॉक्टर विपिन कुमार जी, उन्होंने ट्रिपल लेयर मास्क जो पहली बार विकसित करे थे, वो हम लोगों ने फिर उनकी सहायता से डोनेट करे थे नीडी पीपल्स को. ये कुछ वहाँ की, जैसे हमने गुड़गांव में बांटे थे, मेरठ में, हापुड़ में, शामली में. These are the news coverage of our mass distribution program. Also, we have provided the food to the needy people, because at that time it was sudden lockdown, so nobody was knowing like what to do. So we have provided, and everybody was halted at the places where they was. So there are a lot of crises like job crisis and all the things. So we have provided some food to the needy people also. Like in this, because we have dealing basically with the kids who are not going to school, maybe due to financial reasons or some other reasons. So we celebrate each and every program with the kids. Like we celebrate Diwali, we celebrate Christmas celebrations with the kids. Also, there is a thing like, because I am also associated with the education, so I know कि अगर किसी के अंदर जिज्ञासा उत्पन्न करनी है तो कैसे कर सकते हैं. तो हम लोग क्या है, हमारे एक एलुमनाई है IIT दिल्ली के, वो छोटे छोटे एक्सपेरिमेंट्स बनाते हैं घर पे ही, और लो कॉस्ट एक्सपेरिमेंट है. तो हम लोगों ने जनरली वर्कशॉप्स करते हैं बच्चों के लिए, जिससे कि उनकी साइंटिफिक जो नॉलेज है वो बाहर की आ जाए. जैसे कि भाई बैलून है या पानी सर्फ है, सर्फ में हम लोग पानी मिला के उसके बैलून्स फुलाते हैं, तो उसके पीछे साइंस क्या है, या छोटे ब्रश हैं जो खराब हो जाते हैं उससे हम रोबोट कैसे बना सकते हैं. तो दीज आर द थिंग्स विच वी आर डूइंग विद द in these classes, low cost experiments. These are the different pics of our NEEV classes which are in the slum areas as well as villages. Also, we do sampling, plantation, and quizzes to motivate our kids and to make them aware about what is the environment, what is the energy, and these are the things. So we generally organize these type of things. Also, some other organizations come forward with us to help the needy kids. So we also distribute shoes. We also distribute stationery, bags, and all the things to the needy people. These are the pictures of summer camps which we generally organize in our slum areas. This is the Women's Day celebration which we have done in also Holi Milan Samaroh. In our women's, we have organized a center especially for women at the Meerut. So we do the things over there. These are the bag and stationery distribution to the kids. We also take care about the food to the needy peoples time to time. These are the some educational app which our volunteers have developed, and we have still in this pandemic area, because everything is uh, digital and online. So our NEEV kids also doing education with the social distancing and with the digital things. So we use these apps which is developed by our volunteers. This is the skill development center which I have introduced you, in which more than 50 girls as well as women are participating, and they are learning the new skills which will be helpful for them for their better life. These are the health camps we generally organize at the slum areas or village areas in our educational centers. These are the webinars, like more than 100 webinars we have organized. Even Deputy Chief Minister, Chief Ministers, many ministers are participating in these programs, and they are appreciating our work. These are the glimpse of our program which we have organized. These are the education centers which post-pandemic era we are developing, like Lalkoti, some area, village, Chhajipur, Dimoli, Kansla, Hapod, Ghaziabad. Even we are going to start some new classes in Delhi and Gurgaon. So more than 600 students have been benefited by NEEV, and more than 2,000 families we have fed in this pandemic area. So we have collaboration with these NGOs, and also like there is a small things, but it's good to be kept in mind. Like, do good to others, it will come back in an unexpected way. Arise, awake, and stop, not until the goal is reached, by Swami Vivekananda. And there is a good picture of life. Like, if you have only bookish knowledge, you cannot see the real picture of life. If you have only the money things, also you cannot see the real picture of life. But if you have both money as well as book knowledge, that means if you are the practical person, then only you can see the real picture of life. And finally, if there is no way, then one has to create its own way. And we also believe Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, like the world is our family, and we are running our social thing on these themes. So thank you very much to all for listening these things. And now also our chief guest has joined. So I am into making them a co-host. Okay. Sir, welcome. Welcome to the webinar. Now you can unmute yourself. So just I am introducing the dignitaries, and after introduction, I will hand over the stage to our respective chief guest. So actually सर का सीवी बहुत बड़ा है, तो मैंने सर से पूछा कि भाई please send the CV. So there is a lot of pages. So just I will brief about him, and he will then talk with you and share his experience with you. So Dr. Surya Kamal Datta is a renowned right-wing media think tank, acclaimed politician, foreign policy and economic expert of India. His area of research is India and the Indo-Pacific, with his specialization in economic and diplomatic history of modern and contemporary India. Also, specialization in international business and diplomatic laws. Also, he has worked with the various ministers as an advisor in the recent past. Also, he is a honorary India director of MDS Indo Canadian company headquarters in Ottawa, Canada. Like there is a lot of list. He has got several awards and all the things. So without much delay, I would like to invite him for his address. Sir, you are welcome.
Namaskar. First and foremost, I would congratulate Neve for doing such fantastic work in relation to socio-economic, cultural ethos of our country and in helping out the downtrodden, the poor, and the people from the marginalized group as such. I mean, it is really, really wonderful effort on your part to initiate such beautiful, like beautiful programs with the downtrodden, with the underprivileged section of the society. और मैं बधाई देता हूं आपको डॉक्टर उपदेश वर्मा जी और आपके साथियों को और आपकी टीम मेट को कि उन लोगों ने कोविड के दौरान भी इतने शानदार चीज़ों किए हैं और इतने शानदार वे में आप लोग कोविड के सिचुएशन को हैंडल किए हैं अपने स्तर पे. It is exemplary that you all have been in the front line and you all have been working day and night in relation to handling the emerging COVID scenario in our country right from 2020 onwards. और अब तो एक नया वेरिएंट चपेट में ले रहा है पूरे देश को. तो मैं समझता हूँ कि आप लोग जैसे लोग और आपके जैसे संस्थाओं का दायित्व और कहीं ना कहीं पे और ज़्यादा बढ़ जाता है. and it becomes all the more important for you all to join hands with the government forces, with other organizations, with other institutions, as well as with very many academic institutions, universities, and colleges to help out the needy, to help out the poor, and to help out the people who are actually in need of, handling this kind of pandemic as such. हम जानते हैं कि 2020 से this pandemic has engulfed the whole globe and it has also engulfed India as such. We had the first phase of the pandemic in by the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. जैसे जैसे फर्स्ट पैंडेमिक के फेज को हम लोगों ने हैंडल किया है, द सेकेंड फेज केम इनटू. Second phase was very devastating and we are not yet to recover from the second phase. Now there is a potential threat of a third phase coming with the Omicron showing its ugly head as such, So therefore I think it seems कि जैसे 2020-2021 जिस हिसाब से काटा है लोगों को, मतलब कि लगातार इस पैंडेमिक से जूझते हुए, I get a feeling that probably the beginning of 2022 also, God forbid, might be we will have to we'll have to handle the pandemic in a much more stringent way, and probably we'll have to, work 24 hours as such for handling this new variant of the pandemic or the new variant of the COVID-19 virus as such. Having said that, as you have rightly mentioned, that I have worked with many ministers of the government of India, not only during the Vajpayee government, but also when the Bharatiya Janata Party was in opposition, and also closely working with the present dispensation as such. And plus, I also come in different news channels in relation to the issues related to the government, in relation to issues related to the ruling party as such. And my job is to, deal with the positive aspect of the various schemes which the government of India time and again keeps on bringing up, and time and again, brings it at the national level. Today, I guess I'm supposed to speak on hydrogen as an alternative mode of fuel as such. That is the topic which you have asked me to speak and to deliberate upon on. And I understand that, with the recent crisis in relation to fuel, and especially the fuel crisis, which was created because of the lack of coal as such, recently, just 2 months back, we had gone through a huge power crisis as such because of downfall in the coal production as such, and also because of high rate of inflationary prices in relation to the fuel, and especially in relation to the petroleum and petroleum product as such. I mean, the prices of petroleum and, the other fuels related to petrol as such, whether it's diesel, whether it's the general gas or the kitchen gas which we use, or for that matter, like petrol as such. I mean, the prices are skyrocketing every day as such, and together with that also, there is a huge shortfall in relation to power because of the lignite power crisis and because of the coal crisis as such in our country. So therefore, it becomes all the more vital for us to look into other aspects of and alternative mode of power generation as such, and I do understand that. I mean, the way the rapid industrialization of the country is going on, the way, industries are expanding in such a big way. And there is a study which says that by 2035, almost 50% of the total population of the country would be living in urban areas as such. So therefore, the requirement for power and requirement of cheap fuel becomes all the more important and all the more violent, vital as such. So I understand that, अब जरूरत आ चुकी है कि हमें alternative mode of electricity, alternative mode of energy requirement के बारे में तलाशने की आवश्यकता है और देखने की आवश्यकता है. Now, what are these alternative mode of power generation? I mean, it could be hydel, it could be wind, it could be nuclear, it could be solar, and it could be, biofuel as such, or biomass as such, So, and India is bestowed with a huge potentiality in relation to eco-friendly power generation, in relation to alternative mode of power generation as such, or alternative mode of fuel as such. There is no dearth of biomass in our country. We produce tremendous amount of sugarcane as such. So the byproduct of the sugarcane can always be used as ethanol. It can always be used as a alternative mode of fuel as such, or which is also called the vegetable petrol or the natural petrol as such, So these kind of studies are being done, and ethanol production and ethanol capacity in our country is increasing day by day. The present government and the government of Modi ji is main thrust is in relation to alternative mode of fuel production as such, और उस पे इथेनॉल बहुत महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका अदा करती है. हम लोग सब जानते हैं कि हमारे देश के सक्षम मंत्री माननीय श्री नितिन गडकरी जी, उनका लगातार फोकस रहता है इथेनॉल पे, और उन्होंने बहुत शानदार काम किया है इथेनॉल के ऊपर. और आज के डेट में वी आर प्रोड्यूसिंग अ लॉट ऑफ इथेनॉल एज सच फ्रॉम sugarcane as well as from other related products as such. फिर उसके साथ साथ बायोगैस की अगर आप बात करेंगे तो बहुत सारे ऐसे चूल्हा है जो ग्रामीण क्षेत्र में आज के डेट में लोग बायोगैस का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, और उसके माध्यम से घर की चूल्हे जल रहे हैं as such. Then solar panel has become another very important component of an additional source of electric generation as such. और आज अगर आप जाएंगे तो बहुत सारे प्रांतों पे, अलग अलग प्रदेशों पे गांव में हमें दिखाई देता है solar panels as such, or for that matter, the production of electricity from solar panels as such. And बहुत सारे लोग solar cooker का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं खाना बनाने के लिए as such. Together with that, if you also look into the far-flung mountainous areas where, or in the desert areas where wind is a very potential force, we do see number of windmills coming up, and which is generating very friendly, eco-friendly electricity as such, and several villages are getting electrified through windmills as such. So these are other areas where the government is working upon. Together with that, of course, India is bestowed with a large number of rivers as such. आपको याद होगा कि Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji had actually started the concept of the interlinking of rivers, and he had started the project of the interlinking of rivers. But unfortunately, during the time of the UPA government, no one carried that project forward, and the whole project was stopped as such in relation to the interlinking of rivers. But with the coming of the Modi government, this project has once again restarted as such. एंड उसके साथ साथ आप अगर देखेंगे तो बहुत सारे हाइडल प्रोजेक्ट्स की भी तैयारी हो रही है, बहुत सारे नया हाइडल डैम्स तैयार किया जा रहा है. मेनी डैम्स हैव कम अप इन द लास्ट 6.5 to 7 years as such, and these are generating huge amount of additional resources through the generation of idle energy as such. So this is again another very important component through which the government is tapping the alternative mode of energy as such. Together with that, if you are aware of, and I'm sure every one of you are aware of that, after 2014, when Narendra Modi ji came to power, somewhere around 2016, 2017, he started the huge alliance in relation to solar energy, and it came to be known as the International Solar Alliance as such. And the headquarters of International Solar Alliance is here in India, and it was a pivotal project, or it was a pioneering project of the Honorable Prime Minister of India. And he has clubbed in several countries into this whole International Solar Alliance as such. International Solar Alliance is becoming a kind of a institution or a kind of an organization which is very similar to similar to OPEC or similar to NATO or similar to the United Nations as such. And the main thrust of this alliance is to tap the resources from the sun as such, or the solar energy as such. And many plethora of organizations, institutions are working under the International Solar Alliance. India is fortunate to have almost around 200 to 225 days of सन रेज डेज एज सच, और यानी कि मतलब कि 200 से लेके 225 दिन ऐसे होते हैं देश में जहां पे कहीं ना कहीं पे सूरज पूरी तरह से धूप रहती है और अच्छी तरह से सूरज निकलती है पूरे देश में. So we have a huge potentiality in relation to generation of power through solar energy as such, and the government of India has started a separate department in relation to renewable energy as such, and in relation to solar energy, renewable energy, and other mode of eco-friendly energy as such. And I mean, the thrust of the government is very much in relation to renewable and eco-friendly energy as such, because after all these energies are non-polluting. They don't give any kind of pollution as such, and therefore it is very eco-friendly, it is environment friendly. And need of the hour is to look into all this kind of alternative mode of electricity as such, because we are committed to the Paris Declaration as well as to other declarations of the United Nations. And India has given a commitment in relation to reduction of carbon from the atmosphere as such. And our main target is 2030, where we have given a commitment that we will be reducing, in as far as possible the the pollution from carbon and from carbon emission or from CFC as such, and if you look into the last couple of years, especially the last 2 to 3 years or 4 years as such, the percentage of India's contribution in relation to carbon reduction across the globe has been one of the highest as such, even though we are one of the least polluting country in relation to carbon pollution in comparison to the Western countries, whether it's Europe or whether it's United States of America. But still, we have significantly reduced the carbon emission in atmosphere as such, and that is where such type of important energy requirements comes into play as such, So the Honorable Prime Minister understood the need of such alternative mode of energy production in a very big way, and he therefore focused in all this alternative mode of electricity and power production through this kind of renewable and sustainable energy resources as such, because we all know that the energy from sun is always unending as such, it is renewable, it is unending, and it will never perish as such, in couple of millions of years as such, so therefore the capacity which we have from solar energy is tremendous. In the same way, India is fortunate to have oceans on three sides. We have two very big seas on both the sides of Indian subcontinent. One is the Bay of Bengal, the other one is the Arabian Sea, and we also have the Indian Ocean as such, you know. सवाल यहाँ पे ये आती है कि आखिर इस तरह के एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन के बारे में या फिर इस तरह के ऑल्टरनेटिव एनर्जी रिसोर्सेज के बारे में पहले क्यों नहीं सोचा गया है? Was the sun not existing before 2014? Was the oceans and the seas not existing around India before 2014? This is a vital question which needs to be asked as such. Why is it that the previous prime ministers of our country never focused on all this kind of alternative mode of energy production, except for Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee? Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji had thought about the interlinking of rivers for good productivity in relation to agriculture, in relation to water connectivity across the country, for giving like good drinking water to all the population across the different parts of the country as such, and also for generating cheap mode of power production, cheap mode of electricity. Atalji had thought about the interlinking of rivers, but that, as I had said, that project was shelved in 2000. After 2004, when the new UPA government came into power under Dr. Manmohan Singh, and unfortunately, it was kept at abeyance. It is only in 2014 that this project was again renewed and it was revived when Modi ji came into power as such. And together with that, as I had mentioned about the International Solar Alliance, Modi ji started that, and recently, just before last year, just before the pandemic, the Honorable Prime Minister also gave in a clarion call in relation to generation of electricity which is abundant, electricity which is sufficient, electricity which is renewable, electricity which is non-polluting, the electricity which comes from hydrogen as such, from water itself as such, through the process of separating hydrogen molecules from oxygen and then creating hydrogen fuel as such, So this is very significant as such, and this is something which is very, very important because we understand that we have very limited resources of petroleum and petroleum product in our country. Even now, almost 70% of our fuel from oil, from petroleum is imported from the OPEC countries as such, and therefore a large part of our foreign exchange goes away because of huge import of oil from OPEC countries. And OPEC countries, they do they dictate their terms and condition in relation to the price of petroleum and petroleum product as such, and therefore we have to shell out a lot of money in buying all this fuel from the OPEC countries as such. So therefore, the new government has of the Modi ji, the second tenure of Modi ji, the prime focus of the second tenure has been in relation to renewable energy, in relation to battery operated cars, in relation to electric cars, and in relation to alternative mode of production of energy as such. And therefore, in that, a large substantial work is taking place in relation to solar energy, in relation to wind energy, in relation to the hydel energy, and also in relation to nuclear energy. And together with that, the new component, which is from the hydrogen and hydrogen gas as such, and the hydrogen fuel as such, and the way things are going and the kind of focus which the government of India has in relation to producing fuel from hydrogen as such, if we go in that direction, then by 2035, the estimate is such that if India focuses primarily in relation to hydrogen fuel as such, in relation to fuel from hydrogen or power from hydrogen, then almost 30% of the total energy requirement of the world could be fulfilled by India by 2035 to 2050 as such, if Indian government focuses on hydrogen as such, and if we are able to provide fuel from hydrogen to almost 30% of the world, or to almost 30% of the total energy requirement of the world, then that is a huge contribution from India for energy requirement across the globe as such. Today we are so dependent on animal fuel. We are so dependent on on fuel from the organic components of the animals as such, or the fossilized fuel, which we call the petroleum product as such. But tomorrow, if we are able to succeed in this direction in relation to producing cheap fuel from hydrogen, in relation to producing power from hydrogen, then the contribution of India in relation to the total energy requirement across the globe from hydrogen would be almost around 30-35%, and that would be a stupendous kind of an achievement on part of India as such. And if we are able to go in that direction, and if we are able to achieve that mission, then perhaps almost around 70-80% of our domestic requirement of fuel consumption would be catered by hydrogen as such, and so therefore the thrust of the new government is in relation to blue fuel or in relation to hydrogen fuel as such, so therefore I do understand that esteemed institutions and esteemed organizations, and especially research institutions like that of IIT, DRDO, ISRO, and others, and together with organizations like that of yours and other important non-governmental organizations and corporate companies, they all need to come together in popularizing this mode of fuel production as such, because, and at the same time, they need to invest in a big way, especially the corporate companies in relation to production of fuel from hydrogen as such, because the capacity is tremendous and the production level is tremendous as such. And it is a very eco-friendly energy. It is absolutely non-polluting. It is very much from the environment, and it is very friendly with the environment as such, and therefore this would also help tremendously in reduction of carbon fuel as such, in reduction of carbon emission in the atmosphere as such. And the commitments which we have given under the Paris Declaration and other declarations, we will be able to fulfill those commitments as such if we look into such type of environmental friendly and eco-friendly energy as such. And since this is renewable and this is a non-perishing energy, therefore, anyone who invests in hydrogen for producing electricity and for producing fuel from hydrogen, he or she or the company would be absolutely in a win-win kind of a situation, because it would be a highly profitable venture as such. The commitment of the research institutions also should be there in relation to this pivotal area of energy production as such, because ultimately everything cannot be done by the government. Government plays in a major role, no doubt. But together with that, the private enterprises, private entities, and academic institutions, research institutions, non-governmental organizations, as well as corporate sectors, they do play a very big role in relation to production of energy from such type of fuels as such, from such type of eco-friendly mechanism as such. So therefore, I would suggest everyone out here to think on those lines, to popularize this kind of fuel as such, and to popularize and to organize such type of meetings and seminars even in future, so that we can actually popularize this, and there can be a large large temptation for more and more involvement of people, and for more and more involvement of new institutions and corporate sectors in relation to such a vital component of energy requirement, in relation to such a vital component of energy production as such. My appeal to all of you would be please look into the areas and look into investments in relation to solar energy, in relation to hydel energy, in relation to hydrogen fuel as such, in relation to tidal energy, and of course in relation to biogas and energy requirement from biomass, and also from wind energy as such, because India as a country is bestowed with this kind of cheap resources which is being given by Mother Nature as such. And hydrogen, the hydrogen from the sea water is tremendous for a country like India. Let us walk in that direction. Let us correlate our efforts, and let us club our efforts together, and let us move ahead in future so that India tomorrow becomes an energy surplus nation and not an energy deficient nation as such. We have to look into those directions, and I'm sure the scope of India would be tremendous, as the Honorable Prime Minister always says that vocal for local and think local. Think global, but be focused on local as such. For us to bring in Atmanirbharta and for us to bring in Unnat Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bharat and to be self-sufficient, it is very important for us to be vocal for local, and we need to be, local for vocal as such, so that should be the concept as such, because only then India as a nation can become Atmanirbhar, we can become Unnat. If we really have to be Unnat in a real sense of the term, then we have to think in all this direction. I really appreciate your organization, Updesh ji, for organizing this lovely webinar, and I do see esteemed speakers in the panel. I wish all of you good luck, and I'm sure we all will be heading towards a brighter tomorrow very soon. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightened speech, and you have touched every point of this technology as well as the energy sector. And local for vocal, our Prime Minister also said that it is important thing. And which our next the next speaker are going to speak are also. So, without a delay, I would like to invite Mr. Rajan Vashne, sir, who is a DGM at NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation Limited at Noida, and also Vice President of NEEV. And he's a very much kind-hearted and ground-to-earth person. के जब भी हम कभी भी कोई भी एक छोटी सी कॉल करते हैं तुरंत उठा लेते हैं, और हम लोग का प्लान भी ये वेबिनार का एटलीस्ट आपको बताएं कि कल ही बना, तो सर ने ही स्पीकर्स भी अरेंज करे, आप लोगों को भी बुलाया, तो बड़ा मतलब एक कोऑपरेटिव माहौल रहता है। और ही इज अ वेरी इंटेलिजेंट पर्सन के आईटी दिल्ली से सर ने अपना एमटेक कंप्लीट करा था, एंड ही इज लाइक हैविंग सेवरल अवार्ड्स आल्सो। So without a delay, I invite Mr. Rajan Vashne, sir. And also, he is working on various energy related problems in NTPC also. So, Rajan Vashne, sir, you are welcome.
Thank you, Updeshji, and welcome everybody to this webinar. I would like to say that hydrogen is such a area in this country and in this world that we are just at the starting level, and lot of scope is there. At this time, if India starts in this direction, we can be global exporter of green hydrogen. As Dr. Datta has also said, we can supply major energy needs of the world in next few years. And our Prime Minister has also gave a clarion call of 100% Atmanirbhar by 2047. So in that case, if we have to proceed towards that path, we have to inculcate hydrogen in our energy system. Now I would like to start on the presentation side. Updeshji, I don't see sharing is available. It is coming as light in my screen, not highlighted. Can you help? Now it is okay.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir. Yes, perfectly visible.
And it is coming in full screen mode, slideshow mode.
Fine.
Okay. So today's topic is hydrogen energy for sustainable development. Climate change, we are seeing a lot of bad effects of climate change. This is mainly because of greenhouse gas emission is increasing with the increased use of industry, energy, and cutting of forests, and various new techniques being used like fertilizers, etc., moving away from organic farming and creating a lot of waste which decomposes, and methane gets liberated. And methane itself is 84 times more potent carbon GHG gas, greenhouse gas effect of 84 times than the CO2 itself. So we have to have a system in which we can have protection of our environment, including soil, water, air, and this can be definitely done if we decarbonize. And in decarbonization, hydrogen in any way, either as feedstock or as fuel or as energy storage, in any form, it has a major role to play. If we see our uh, top 20 15 after in the world, out of top 20 cities in pollution, our 15 cities are in there in top 20 of the world. And if we see, our country is third largest emitter, and in PM 2.5 also, world is in world we are in the top 3. So in any case, we have to control our pollution, which affects our health, productivity, and lot of expenses are being done in other areas, including health, etc., which can be partly diverted towards focused approach on hydrogen research, demonstration projects, and pilot and commercialization, so that we can be world leaders. Now, if we see, a lot of studies are being done across the world, and these changing weather patterns, low productivity, ill health, weather extremities, these are all increasing day by day. So we have to have a limit on temperature rise. And in this COP26 also, it was emphasized that we should be limiting the rise to 1.5 degrees centigrade by 2100. Most desirable is this, but even if we could do it up to 2 degrees centigrade, it would be a good achievement. But the IPCC sixth report, which came out on 10th August 21, says that already 1.09 degree temperature rise has happened. And at current rate, this 2 degree will be breached by 2030 itself. So all countries have to have their contribution in increasing decarbonization and developing hydrogen towards maximum extent for energy. Now, criteria for ideal solution should be GHG reduction, energy security, clean air, low SPM, CO, CO2, CH4, etc. should be low, so that low GHG is there. Clean water and waste management should be there. For India, the imports also should be need to cut, as we listened to Dr. Datta also. And we should have clean heating, cooling, because if we have this air conditioning, what does it do? It takes electrical energy, which is itself generated in India. More than 80% is through coal and other this thing. And again, heat is liberated outside. Inside you cool, outside you increase heat. So all this is like creating pollution also and heating also. So if we have clean hydrogen, that fits the bill. So all these parameters can be matched, can be achieved through this. So India is going for green hydrogen in our hydrogen mission, which Prime Minister launched very recently. So if we see, electricity is hardly 18% of the total energy mix, but creates 33% pollution. And rest energy is transport, industry, heating, cooling, and other things. So all this have to be tackled for CO2 reduction. This 82% also needs to be tackled. Like we heard that we have solar and sea and wind resources outside and near India and inside our India, but we have to take care of the transport industry and heating cooling also. This total energy, if decarbonized, can be very helpful in tackling all the problems like energy security, because India imports 84% oil, 53% gas, 24% coal. Our energy bill is today $160 billion and fast increasing. It will be 4 times in next 10 years. If we see batteries for storage and battery based electric vehicles, again, these are in one or other form importing lithium, cadmium, and other things, and then there will be recycling problem, and high intensity heating is not possible. So we have to go for hydrogen. Now, H2 usage does not generate CO2 or SPM because H2 plus O2 gives steam or water. H2 can be generated from waste. H2 can be generated at the point of use, so decentralized production. H2 can be used or transported in various forms like ammonia, methane, hydride, metal hydride, liquid oxygen carrier or liquid organic hydrogen carriers, and other things. India has 30 million cars on road and around 2.3 tons of CO2 per year is generated per car. This requires a lot of hydrogen. And similarly, for fertilizer also, we need a lot of ammonia. So all this can be generated through hydrogen. One example I am saying, South Korea has recently commissioned a 78 megawatt hydrogen fuel cell plant, which takes in hydrogen, uses it through fuel cell to produce electricity, and such plants are there. One other plant is also there, there in 75, which is 76 megawatt in South Korea. And such beginnings are happening. This is only last October only, this 2021 October only, I'm telling, 26/10/21. So we are nowhere behind other world. We have the potential to be on the forefront and we should try to be there. Now this plant itself is supplying to 2.5 lakh households. Also, it gives pure air. It sucks dust in the air and provides clean air for people to breathe. And the electricity production simultaneously combined heat and power also. It gives hot water also. And like Korea has given a call for 1 gigawatt of hydrogen fuel cell plants by 2030. Similarly, India should also move in this direction. Now I'll just show how versatile hydrogen is. From renewable like solar, wind, tidal, etc., it can be made through electrolyzer, or even the water required can be seawater also, and same can be used for making the hydrogen. And moreover, oxygen is also getting produced in this, because when we split water, we get H2 plus O2. So we had recently seen in COVID crisis, had oxygen crisis was there. So such things are definitely, all the problems can be settled through this if we go in for hydrogen. Now hydrogen can be converted to ammonia. Presently, a lot of ammonia is being imported for making fertilizer for our this agriculture. Similarly, now green hydrogen or hydrogen has applications in refining. Today, more than 70% of the hydrogen is being used in fertilizers and oil refining only. And that all is gray hydrogen or black hydrogen. Either it is coming from coal or from natural gas. Say gasification of coal or steam methane reforming of natural gas. And it emits a lot of carbon dioxide. So if we go in for electrolysis of water, we can get this green hydrogen and a lot of GHG effects can be saved. Similarly, for transport, like cars, buses, aeroplanes, shipping, rails. A lot of fuels is being imported, which all can be run on hydrogen. Steel plants are using a lot of coke and all, and this hydrogen can be used for high heating, and also for ore reduction to produce iron from which steel is generated. Similarly, if we can put in hydrogen in the gas network, imported CNG can be reduced, and also at a later stage, more hydrogen percentage can be initiated. So H2 has hydrogen has so many applications. It can be as an energy carrier, like we have seen. It can also be used for storing the energy, not only making electricity. Then it is an important feedstock, like we see it is fertilizer, then glass, food, pharma, and all other industries. Many industries use it. Like we see hydrogenation of डालडा जिसका बनता है, हाइड्रोजनेशन ऑफ ऑयल जिससे बनता है, तो उसमें भी हाइड्रोजन यूज होती है, ग्लास में भी हाइड्रोजन यूज होती है. Now mobility we have discussed. Then H2 with the CO2 can be combined to give cleaner fuels like ethanol, methanol. Then it can give base load power. Today our grid is having a capacity of 400 gigawatt of electricity, but our base load is hardly 100 gigawatt or even lesser. So if we go in for base load, it can be clean energy, clean electricity along with heat, and that heat can be converted to cooling through district cooling using VAM, etc., vapor absorption machines, etc. And we get 100% clean green power, which is not having any ash, which is not generating any pollution, not generating any SPM, etc. Also, hydrogen can be used in hydrogen turbines or gas turbines by blending ammonia or natural gas, or also with coal also hydrogen can be co-fired, so that pollution can reduce, electricity, cleaner electricity can be generated. Now our Prime Minister has given a call of 500 gigawatt of renewable energy into the grid by 2030 at COP26. So if we have so much renewable power is like quite intermittent, and we have to sustainably integrate into the grid to give a dispatchable electricity, so that whenever we require, whatever we require electricity and whatever point, so we should be able to get that. Now all these sectors like cement is having 1 ton cement generates around 1 ton CO2. Similarly, 1 ton steel we produce in and we give out around 1.85 tons of CO2. Similarly, 1 ton diesel, again 2 tons of CO2, more than 2 tons. And in ammonia also, 1 ton ammonia generates around, production of 1 ton ammonia generates around 2.85 or 3 ton of CO2. So ultimately, if we go in for green hydrogen, to the extent possible, we can save a lot of GHG effects. Hydrogen demand scenario is such that we have a expected growth of around 20% CAGR till 2050. And these are some of the projections where hydrogen can be used in mobility, in fertilizers, in microgrids, and blending. Today, hardly we have some kilowatts of electrolyzer for production of hydrogen. And by 2030, we can have 30 gigawatt of electrolyzers with the PLI schemes and other new schemes coming up. In Switzerland, they have hybrid. One steel company has generated carbon-free steel, and that is being used by That is, it is a sample only. First trial they have made, and it is being used in Volvo car. Hard to abate sector, we have discussed steel, cement, fertilizer, and mobility. Then global projections are very high that this is required. Now the solar and wind, like solar is available during only the day. During night and early morning, it is not there. Wind is mostly available during the night and also very fluctuating. Similarly, solar is also fluctuating. So during the time when we require additional energy beyond whatever is available through solar and wind, so we have to have some storage so that when it is short, it can be generated here. This is showing through electrolyzer, we can generate green hydrogen. It can be stored, or electrolyzer, three types I have shown here: alkaline, PEM, and solid oxide. All are being used. This is fuel cell, where we give in hydrogen, it takes oxygen from the air, and H2O is out, and main thing is electricity gets generated. This is a solid oxide fuel cell working in modular stacks. The major advantage of electrolyzers and fuel cells is that they are very small entities and they can be stacked to the extent we require in high capacity, or at local, say village level, rural level development. We can have small like 1 megawatt or 500 kilowatt systems, small microgrids, independent microgrids, so that we can save on transmission of electricity, which a lot of copper losses are happening in that. Now, various countries across the world have given commitment during COP26, and even before that also, like UK hydrogen strategy was launched, EU draft Fit for 55 was launched, and these countries are now claiming that they will reduce carbon emission by 55%, EU countries by 2030, and carbon neutral by 2050. More than 50 countries have declared their hydrogen strategies, and some are net carbon zero by even earlier than 2050 also. China is by 2060, and we have announced by 2070. More than 5,000 individual companies have pledged their net zero emission by 2030, 35, 40, etc. And this hydrogen mission, Prime Minister used in 15th August 2021 and 2047, import independence, and also it will help in waste management, jobs, and security, energy security. Budget allocation of 3,000 crores has been made for hydrogen. Then a draft of this NHEM has been circulated on 31st May, and fiscal incentives, PLI in electrolyzer and FCs, fuel cells, etc., is in planning mode, and more funds will also be allocated as per requirement. Various alliances are being formed. Various companies have announced, like Reliance has announced 75,000 crore investment and is having some acquisitions across the world. ArcelorMittal, Adani, Jindal, and other groups and other public sectors like NTPC, GAIL, IOC, HPCL, BPCL, Cummins, Siemens. Many companies are having MOUs and allocated funds for development of hydrogen here. Now, there are various ways in which hydrogen can be produced. My friend Kaustav next speaker will explain on biomass to hydrogen. He has a good experience in this area. I'll just give other things like electrochemical production from photocatalytic, from sunlight to direct water is split and hydrogen is produced, and some other new techniques are getting developed. one company in Canada, Proton Energy, is producing hydrogen from abandoned oil fields. That I'll explain next. Then from methane also through pyrolysis, we can break it into solid carbon and hydrogen. Hello. And CH4 can be also decomposed at very high temperature to give hydrogen and solid carbon. Now, green and low carbon and carbon negative hydrogen, this is like from waste we can generate hydrogen, and this will be described in next. And we have ample quantity of waste available in India, and some other companies like are generating even plastics and tires, etc., are being used to produce hydrogen. And this is like from biomass, we generate biomethane, and from that, we generate hydrogen. Some companies like Enzyme 2HC is generating hydrogen from industrial waste. SGH2 is generating hydrogen from waste, bio waste. Then Bloom Energy is directly using this biogas generated from this poop of cow dung, etc. And this biogas can be directly used in the Bloom fuel cells to produce energy, because it has a inbuilt system to separate out hydrogen from the biogas. And then from wastewater treatment plants and landfill gases, also a lot of hydrogen can be generated through the biogas and methane produced from them. About that green hydrogen means it is produced from electrolysis of water. Natural gas, when used and SMR process is used, then it is called gray hydrogen. And when from coal or lignite, it is black or brown hydrogen. And similarly, this from oil and gas fields, which I described about Proton Energy, that is called gold hydrogen. A pilot plant is already working there in Canada, and the hydrogen cost there is hardly 20 rupees per kg. I'll come to other also costs. And blue hydrogen is like when we generate hydrogen through SMR, but capture the carbon. This is the Proton Energy system. It drives oxygen inside, and thereafter it reacts with the remainder oil or gas, and it has a membrane to separate out hydrogen. It takes out hydrogen, and thus the abundant fields, already infrastructure is there, pipeline is there, all that can be used for hydrogen production and hydrogen transfer. So these assets of oil companies can be used productively for new energy, which is hydrogen. And this is carbon negative effect also. Now, if we go in for cost, like green hydrogen, maximum cost is out of electricity only. And India is lucky that we have solar or wind costs are around rupees 2 rupees per unit, and around 50 to 55 units of electricity is required to produce 1 kg of hydrogen through electrolysis. And so the cost of gray hydrogen is around 100 rupees per kg, and it can be brought down to the green hydrogen cost also can be brought down from presently 300 rupees per kg with the increasing scaling of electrolyzers. And time to time, as time passes, the electricity from solar also gets cheaper. In last 10 years, it has come down from 20 rupees to 2 rupees. And maybe in 5 to 10 years, it will be 1 rupee per unit. Then this gray hydrogen and green hydrogen cost will match. Rather, green hydrogen will be cheaper if electrolyzer costs also can be reduced with higher technology, and scaling, whereas where the common areas balance of plant can be cheaper if we have a higher scale of hydrogen production. This is again showing the trend and the scope of hydrogen. And global focus is on reducing the cost, as I had told, and it is expected that by 2025 itself, the green hydrogen cost will be lesser than gray hydrogen, and it will be around 100 rupees per kg. And if proton energy type of things happen, it can be even 20 to 30 rupees per kg. Green energy H2 catapult is already there. NEL and H2 Pro are all targeting rupees. This is in $2, $1.5, and $1 per kg. So these are some of the products which are under planning or being produced for used for hydrogen. Microgrids, DG replacement, blending in gas lines for cooking, etc. So Tokyo Olympics have already shown how hydrogen can be used for various energy needs of the Games Village. China Winter Olympics from 4th to 22nd February are being planned for this only. And now I will show you, and this is like a train in diesel, where trains are running on diesel. The cost has already become more competitive than diesel if we use hydrogen trains. This Cordia Island trains are being used in Europe, in many countries, or in European countries. By different applications, they have different fixed costs and different running costs. And so at different stages, these will be like cost economical as compared to today's conventional mode of production. But if we take into account the environmental benefits and health benefits, so these can be, if we take the holistic cost, hydrogen is already more sustainable and cheaper in many cases if we take the holistic cost. Now the H2 hydrogen refueling stations are being increased as the more and more hydrogen cars and vehicles are coming up and buses are used. In Asia, there are 275 fueling station. In Europe, more than 200 are there. US 75 are there. In India, 2 fueling stations are there. One is at IOC Faridabad itself in NCR, and one is in Gurgaon, again in NCR. One Indian company, Hydrogen H2E, is collaborating with H2M in storage of hydrogen as baseball like cylinders, in which it can be used in 3-wheelers for goods transport and all. Swappable cylinders it can be like baseball, one basketball can be shifted, another can be put once the hydrogen in it is consumed. It is like metal hydride system in which a thick paste of magnesium hydride is stored in a basketball type of thing. And then greening the grid, I have already explained. Already Bloom Energy is supplying baseload power at various servers, data servers across the world, like Google and Microsoft, and that too at grid comparable costs and 100% supply, because data servers have total reliable power. Similarly, these are like 9 flat housing society in Switzerland. They are not dependent on grid either for electricity or for heat. They are being supplied hydrogen for heating and cooking and power. Similarly, if we have to take the holistic nature, we have to generate the value proposition, and this can help us in cheaper and faster energy transition. Like if we take aeroplanes, they have like a lot of energy, lot of water they have to carry for say flushing. 2 tons water one aeroplane has to carry. For humidifying also they carry water. Similarly, if we see at airport the aeroplane is making a lot of noise, if it uses because it uses generator for uh, inbuilt lighting and air conditioning, so even when it is not flying, so if we use hydrogen and fuel cells for that, it can be like cleaner environment and sound pollution will not be there. So if we take all these benefits, it can be much better cost proposition. Similarly, for hospitals, hotels, which have heating, cooling needs also, and power required is also there, and cooking, etc., is also required. So all these benefits can be totally accounted for, and real cost then only should be determined, and this will help in holistic view and cleaner and faster energy transition. Now, this is in Japan, FH2R, they say, and this is a 10 megawatt electrolyzer, and it is being used for all energy needs as well as transportation mobility needs. India has some microgrids in Northeast. And here the methanol and hydrogen fuel cells are being used to provide energy and electricity needs in remote areas. Similarly, one hotel in Goa is in the sea. It is being provided hydrogen through hydrogen fuel cell, the energy required. Some other examples are there, like, and decentralized hydrogen production is being used in many areas, and it is called H2 power plant for garden and for H2 refueling. Similarly, many companies are going in for decentralized hydrogen production and hydrogen refueling. Now, for power plants, co-firing with coal and hydrogen and ammonia, which I have said, it can be done in a simultaneous manner. Some examples are there. One power plant at Uta is being prepared for hydrogen adoption, and it is a like 840 megawatt hybrid plant. Initially, it will use 30% hydrogen, and later on, it will switch to 100% hydrogen. And then ammonia, hydrogen in the form of ammonia can also be used for gas turbines or co-firing with coal. Many other examples are there where hydrogen is being used to replace DG sets and or to generate electricity. This is methanol based SFC energy plant being used at Kargil and other remote areas where previously our helicopters used to transport diesel for those locations for heating and electricity needs. Various companies across the world are coming up with higher level of scale as the hydrogen applications increase. It is a chicken and egg problem. As the need increases, so the production increases, and similarly as the costs go down, more and more applications come out, and this positive cycle keeps on happening. A recent Deloitte report says that India has a $11 trillion opportunity or a $35 trillion risk. If we adopt climate change, it will be useful for us itself, for India itself, because if we can put our money in waste management separately, healthcare separately, imports separately, it is not going to help. We have to have a method in which all these problems can be addressed, and hydrogen provides a solution toward this. So it is a great opportunity that we are in, and now it is a hydrogen decade. India can take lead and become global exporter. Hydrogen is economical in already some applications, and increasingly it is coming to be more economical in other areas with the cheaper renewable energy, scaling of fuel cells and electrolyzers, and the supply chain equipments, and the technological advances in carbon capture, like in we discussed about blue hydrogen. And with the advances in nanotechnology, more and more electrolyzer components are getting as membranes, and electrodes are getting with cheaper way, because they will use less of platinum or cadmium. And with green finance, financing costs are coming down. With carbon pricing, we are getting benefits in the terms of carbon trading. So all these things can be properly utilized to bring down the overall cost. Now our Minister Nitin Gadkari ji has already purchased a hydrogen fuel cell car, and he is going to run it from IOC Faridabad hydrogen plant. It will refuel, he will refuel from it, and such visibility, when it comes, more and more people will be buying it. I had the privilege to get the HCNG and hydrogen incorporated in the Indian Motor Vehicle Act as permitted fuels during last September 2020 means. Now the well-directed, stable policies toward decarbonization from government are required, so that the investments by public sector and private sector can be channelized, and hydrogen-based systems are important for clean energy, air, water, waste management. And moreover, it is a multi-decade opportunity. Green hydrogen can integrate renewable energy sustainability and provide help to many sectors. Additional benefits being cleaner environment, methane flaring avoiding, waste treatment, cheaper waste treatment, because we will get energy out of it. And we can free prime lands worth millions being locked in by the landfills, more jobs, and even at decentralized way, as the it will help in lesser migration, because people will get jobs at their locations, at their villages itself. And lot of which like production of agricultural vegetables, fruits, etc. gets deteriorated, because it is not getting proper air conditioning, warehouses, storage, which will be possible if we have 24-hour electricity, as well as like hydrogen. During hydrogen production, we get CO2 also if we generate it from renewable biogas or biomethane. So that CO2 can be used for as dry ice for making these cold storage facilities, and the farmer can sell, instead of say 50 paisa per kg of potato, when lot of potato in the season generates, he can store it for some time, for some months, maybe 1 month, 15 days, and can realize better prices out of it. Similarly, if we have low carbon products and electricity inside the country, we can produce low carbon steel, green ammonia, etc. And we can export them as the time is coming when high carbon products will not be allowed to be exported. Countries will not import, they will create barriers out of it. So hydrogen is a sustainable thing, and it is win-win for all, for planet, people, and for prosperity. Thank you. Now I'll ask Mr. Costa, who is having a more than 10 years experience in biomass to hydrogen field. He will discuss about this techniques to produce hydrogen from this biomass. Welcome, Mr. Kaustav. You can share your video.
Yeah, Kaustubh you are, please
Can you
unmute
hear me now?
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Rajan, and thank you, Mr. Updeshji, Dr. Updeshji, for giving me opportunity to be part of News initiative. I'm glad to know about NEEV and various work that NEEV is doing for society at large. So I'm happy to part of the NEEV. And I think Dr. Datta and Rajanji have already set a lot of context and given a bigger background and lightened my work, I would say. So thank you for that as well. I'll just start with my presentation over here. And I'll be real quick because most of the part has been already covered. So just give me a moment over here. So can you see my screen?
Yeah. It's visible.
Yeah, perfect.
Perfect.
So generating hydrogen from biomass is a topic that I would like to speak today. So before that, I'll just briefly explain about my company. So Sentient Labs is a technology company which is funded by KPIT Technologies Limited, and it is focused on development of clean and sustainable mobility technologies. So in that, we are engaged in development of fuel cells, electric powertrain for fuel cell and battery electric vehicles, and green hydrogen generation technologies. So last year, along with CSIR, National Chemical Laboratory, NCL, Pune, we demonstrated a successful fuel cell prototype installed in a car and its on-road application, a commercial demonstration of those trials. And it was the first of a kind in India that has happened. And taking a step beyond after that, on December 15 this year, we launched our first truly made in India fuel cell bus, where it was coupled with our own fuel cell stack and our own made electric powertrain indigenously. So now I'll just go to the hydrogen, today's topic. So why is the need of hydrogen? As Mr. Rajan already explained that it's a lot of force or thrust for clean and sustainable mobility and clean and sustainable energy all over the world. And it's not only from the government side, but people and large companies and investors also are focusing on this. So there is a great push for hydrogen and green initiative. And certainly hydrogen will play a strong role over here and for longer duration. Currently, more than 40 countries have already mentioned their roadmaps for hydrogen generation and hydrogen utilization in their ecosystem for transportation and other applications as well. So hydrogen is certainly a big element that will play a significant role in the coming years now. There are many pathways by which hydrogen is getting generated. The dominant pathways are, we can say that natural gas reformation, wherein 95% of the world's hydrogen is being produced by this particular method. Then, as we all know, the water electrolysis using renewable or green power. And then other lesser known alternatives are like methanol reformation, the hydrogen generation from biomass, and MSW gasification, about which I'm going to talk today. So all these multiple pathways are broadly categorized into three buckets or colors, I would say, worldwide. First is gray. Gray is like the conventional hydrogen generation, wherein natural gas reformation, methanol reformation, or coal gasification, wherein the generation process also emits significant amount of carbon dioxide, which is because of utilization of fossil fuels, and it's already fixed carbon that are emitting into atmosphere. So it is called as gray. The blue hydrogen is similar, but wherein the carbon capture from this particular process is captured and sequestered. So such kind of hydrogen generation is called as blue hydrogen. And the third one is green hydrogen, wherein the hydrogen that is generated is carbon free, basically. So the energy utilized for that hydrogen generation is clean, like solar or wind, or hydrogen generation from biomass, where the carbon from the atmosphere is already fixed and utilized in biomass, is circulated back in the cycle, and that's why the process of generation of hydrogen is very clean and carbon free. We can say it's a carbon neutral cycle. So now green hydrogen, as we already seen that it is picking up nowadays very significant and very high. And demand for green hydrogen is going to be increasing in the various sectors nowadays. Mainly it is industrial sector and transportation sector that is seeing this demand. Talking about India, we can estimate that hydrogen demand will be around 8 million tons, speaking for long distance commercial transportation. And if hydrogen is made available at $3.5 to $4 a kg, it will be very economically viable or feasible to compete with the fossil fuel based transportation like diesel based trucks and buses over here. Similarly, with the new schemes getting proposed, like similar to renewable purchase obligations, there is a now scheme coming up for hydrogen green hydrogen purchase obligation for refineries and fertilizer units predominantly to substitute 10% of their overall hydrogen demand by this green hydrogen. And this will be also to the tune of like 600,000 tons or 6 lakh tons. And that is also a significant amount wherein green hydrogen has to play a good role over here. The other technology, as Mr. Rajan said, is about this green steel, wherein that steel will use the green hydrogen for its production. And that kind of steel is mainly demanded by the industry in the coming years. Volvo, as Mr. Rajan already said, is trying to utilize that particular steel for making of their Volvo buses and other units. So the commercial implementation for this can be expected to seen by 2030. We can say that. In green hydrogen, as we have seen, there are two main pathways. One is from biomass, and other is from solar and wind. So as far as hydrogen is concerned, we should be looking at all the possible options. We shouldn't be focused on single aspect for getting hydrogen for utilization. And so solar, wind, biomass, and even the blue hydrogen are the options that we should be focusing at for initial few years, because hydrogen is going to play a very predominant role over here. Talking about biomass-based hydrogen, it has certain advantages over the other technologies. First one is that biomass can be stored and utilized whenever it is needed. And so this makes 24 hours kind of generation of hydrogen possible at any places and in decentralized form. So you can store and distribute biomass and generate hydrogen as and when needed, even for continuous operation for 24 hours. So that's the advantage that biomass has over here. Even the technologies that we are talking about here are like anaerobic decomposition of biomass by microbial cultures, and also gasification of biomass. These are two predominant technologies by virtue of which we can generate hydrogen from biomass. And the processes are pretty simple, and the production equipment that are required for setting up the plants for this particular technologies are also can be manufactured in India using local available components. So that is also in line with Make in India initiative. And this will also make the cost of these plants very low, capital intensive, and make hydrogen generation more cost competitive compared to other counterparts. The biohydrogen can address main problems in the country, which are the three main problems are like oil import bill, which is ever increasing, as mentioned by Mr. Rajan again. And demand of energy is also going to increase. So this problem of importing the oil for meeting the energy is going to increase day by day. Hydrogen can solve this particular problem if it is made from biomass that is locally available in the country. The second problem is of pollution. Now the pollution is a twofold problem over here. First one is because of the use of fossil fuels for meeting our energy needs, which emits CO2. And the second important problem over here is of burning of biomass, which is generated in abundance. So we always hear in the winter season for issues of Delhi, where the biomass that is getting burned in Punjab and Haryana, paddy straw, wheat straw, that creates a lot of pollution, which eventually worsens the air of Delhi and nearby region. So that problem also can be addressed if biomass is utilized for generation of hydrogen over here. Third important problem is of lower income of farmers. The main source of biomass over here is agricultural residue. So if farmers are able to get some revenue for this agricultural residue, their income can be improved a bit. and it will also help in our initiative for doubling farmers' income to some extent. So all these three problems can be addressed by biohydrogen. So now biohydrogen process, as I mentioned, there are two main processes that we have talked about. Microbial process for hydrogen generation. We all know about generation of methane or biogas using microbial cultures from biomass. So in that we generate methane or biogas. That methane can be utilized for steam methane reformation or methane pyrolysis, which is now upcoming technology, and we can generate hydrogen out of it. But along with that, we also have worked upon another novel pathway with Agarkar Research Institute. So Sentient Lab collaborated with Agarkar Research Institute in Pune to come up with a novel process wherein you can convert biomass directly into hydrogen, and further the water is remaining, that part can be further converted into methane in subsequent part, and that methane can further be utilized to generate hydrogen from steam methane reformation as well. So this is a very novel technology that we have developed, and we have used a novel culture for this. And this process can give us a 25% more yield than the conventional processes over here. So we have filed a patent for this particular process, and right now we are in the process of scaling up it to the pilot level and eventually commercialization within the next year or 18 months. We can use various biomasses like rice straw, wheat straw, Napier grass, or press mud for this, which can be degraded using microbial culture and converted into hydrogen. The another advantage that this technology will have is that along with hydrogen, it can give another byproducts which have good value, like liquid fertilizer, the organic manure in terms of solids that is coming out of this particular plant, and again CO2, which also has very large industrial applications. And again, if this CO2 is green, it will also benefit environment to large extent. The another technology over here is generation of hydrogen by gasification of biomass. So there are certain biomasses which cannot be degraded using microbial processes. We have to go for decomposing it using thermochemical process, like cotton stalk, bamboo, woody biomass, bagasse, municipal solid waste. So all these are like combustible matters which can be degraded using thermochemical process, can be converted into syngas, which is further treated to generate hydrogen by downstream processes. So this is another pathway of green hydrogen generation technology, and we are also working on this particular pathway, and soon we will launch this particular technology on commercial scale in the next 3 months. We talked about the technologies, but what about availability of biomass? So eventually, or fortunately, our country is very rich in terms of biomass supply. Every year we generate around 500 million tons of agricultural residue, and it is estimated that more than 200 millions of this waste is unutilized and is being burned by farmers, causing the pollution. So this amount of waste is sufficient to run around 2,500 of plants with capacity of 5 tons per day hydrogen production. And this can be used all across the country because the biomass is spread across the states, and different kinds of biomasses are available at different locations. This will help in decentralized production of hydrogen, because this is another very important aspect, because hydrogen is very lighter gas and it is very difficult or energy intensive to capture it, compress it, and transport it. So decentralized production can address this issue and help in bringing down the cost to further extent. Also, these crops are harvested at different times of the year, so year-round availability of biomass won't be an issue in this case. Also, where the biomass is not available in the residual form, farmers can also go for dedicated biomass farming for biofuels or biohydrogen generation. And there are certain varieties, including bamboo or energy cane, we can say, which can grow up to 40 tons of dry wet mass per acre per year basis. So that can give a significant amount of revenue to the farmers if they go for cultivation of this particular biomasses on unutilized lands to have additional income apart from their conventional agricultural practices. So what will be potential impact of generation of green hydrogen and its utilization? So it will eventually benefit the economy of the country, will reduce our oil import bill by significant extent, and creation of local businesses will also help in improving the GDP of the country by around 6%. It will also help in mitigating the pollution, thereby meeting our COP commitments as well. As a single ton of hydrogen generated from biomass can displace diesel and eventually can help in reducing 24 tons of CO2 emissions by displacing the 5 to 6 tons of diesel eventually, which is used for transportation purposes. Thirdly, as I already mentioned, it will help in doubling farmers' income because you are using the agricultural residue, which can bring in some value to the farmers. This will also create potentially 500,000 plus jobs for hydrogen generation, for supply chain management, and dispensing of hydrogen to the vehicles, creating a rural entrepreneurship and creating a value all across the supply chain, right from the generation of biomass to use of hydrogen in the vehicles as well. This will also help in meeting our SDG goals, creating sustainable development goals, creating direct and indirect impact on a lot of the entities over here. Like we can bring in good health and well-being. We can bring in clean and affordable energy to public at large. We can reduce pollution. We can also create wealth in the country locally. Industrial infrastructure development will also benefit from this. So there are a lot of benefits which are direct and indirect, and almost all the SDG goals can be addressed over here by green hydrogen. So I will clearly say that green hydrogen has a good future, and it will also has a very positive impact of on the lives of citizens of India. So on this note, I would like to thank you, the organizers. Thank you, thank you, Mr. Varshe and Dr. Verma, for giving me opportunity over here to speak on the panel. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kaustubji. If there are any questions from the audience, please raise their hands. So we will unmute them so that they can ask the questions. And Rajan Varshe sir, would you like to comment something on it?
Yeah, I am glad that with the very short notice, we only informed participants for in the morning itself around 10 o'clock that we are conducting this webinar, and a lot of participation is there, and I see a lot of good comments. This always boosts our morale, and we'll definitely go for more detailed presentations in next webinar on hydrogen, where we'll have around again 2-3 hours session, and we'll bring at least arrange 4-5 speakers, and for each aspect. Actually, this is a very detailed topic. It was today like an introduction only, and now we'll have, say, one session for mobility, one session for steel, how hydrogen can be used in steel. Similarly, one session for fertilizer and other industries, and that will help generate a lot of awareness to the people, and more participation of hydrogen in our energy and feedstock. Overall decarbonization will happen. We are always there to create awareness and participate in whatever startups are doing and mentoring them. Thank you, Updeshji, for arranging this. If any questions are there, we are here to answer and clarify doubts.
Yeah, actually, this is the new technology, and I am also very new to see all the things, and which is very much interesting. So maybe all the audience are willing to have more lectures on the same topic as you have suggested. So maybe now, up to now, there is no questions, only wishes are there. Like it's a very fruitful discussion and like that. So maybe in near future, we will organize some new lectures with you, Kaustubji, and other fellows. And maybe that will be a good idea of you, sir. So I think we can stop it now because there are no questions presently.
Okay, thank you, Costa ji, and
So,
all the
Thank you so
viewers.
much.
so on behalf of all the NEEV fraternity and all the volunteers, I would like to thank you, Kaustubh Rajan Vashne sir, who is a vice president also of NEEV, and our chief guest, Datta sir, and all the loved one audience. So that because without audience, our webinars are nothing because we are providing them the information which we have. So thank you very much, and definitely we will.
I'm seeing two persons have raised hand, Mr. Arvind Kumar and Mr. Dipankar Jana. If Arvind ji, can you unmute yourself and speak out your views?
Just a minute, sir. Just a minute. Yeah, Dipankar ji can unmute themselves and also Arvind ji.
Okay. Okay. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Dipankar, you are audible.
Thank you, sir, for giving me chance. And good afternoon to all of you, and Merry Christmas to all. Sir, one thing I like to highlight here in front of all experts, very good lectures went on. Thing is that we are discussing about green energy from hydrogen, and we want to substitute some fossil fuel in place of want to substitute some fossil fuel, and we want the green energy from hydrogen. It is fine, but there are so many sources, and the broad sources are methane. We are saying let it consider it as biomass to methane, and methane to hydrogen. But what about water to directly hydrogen? And if so, second thing is that we have ample of opportunity for seashore. So we are around with seashore. Then what any science is going on in this way, sir?
Dipankar ji, I will address this. Actually, in my lecture, I had biomass to hydrogen only very small and introduction type, and Mr. Kaustav had a detailed presentation on biomass to hydrogen only. In my lecture, I had discussed about green hydrogen, which is from electrolysis of water only, and it can use seawater also. I had shown some examples also. So you are very right. Water is available in sufficient, and we have a lot of seawater also available. Water bodies are also available, and there itself we can have offshore wind, onshore wind, as well as floating solar to generate the renewable energy required for electrolysis. But 1 kg of hydrogen generation through electrolysis requires around 55 units of electricity,
That's
which
the point.
generated through renewable, it can be called green hydrogen. In
Yes.
biomass to hydrogen, we have lot of biomass, and it addresses our many other needs, like uh, it gives rural employment there itself, and decentralized hydrogen production can be done, and it is more negative, carbon negative also, because in any case waste is to be treated, and if waste is not treated, it is generating methane, which is highly 84 times more carbon GHG potent than CO2 itself. So CO2 is also generated, methane is also generated. All this can be controlled if we treat the waste at much earlier stage before it starts decomposing, and we can generate biofuels and hydrogen out of it. So this was the context. You are right. There is a lot of water, and it can be used to produce green hydrogen. And soon, with the lowering of cost of renewable energy, it is expected that by 2025 itself, in next 4 years, the cost of green hydrogen through electrolysis of water will be at par or even lower than the presently SMR hydrogen, which we call, which is generated through gas or coal. Am I clear about?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir. And we shall hope for the best for 2025.
yeah. So, okay. So there will be
Yeah.
some last question from Arvind Kumar ji.
No,
Arvind
there
ji,
is
you can unmute yourself.
there is one more question. One is Mr. Arvind Kumar, and one is Mr. Ashok Kumar Dhingra, and we'll take these two
Yeah.
questions.
But please, yeah, please be brief. because there is a going this meeting is going to okay. Arvind,
So I'm Arvind Kumar. I would like to. I would like
Arvind
to.
ji, are you there?
हाँ, voice is clear, voice is clear. हाँ, अरविंद बोलिए.
I'm Arvind Kumar. I want to ask you if you want to have a technological partnership with any country, which are the country you think that you will consider, and who are the leader in hydrogen?
Yeah,
technology
presently,
production?
I got your question. Presently, Japan, South Korea, as I showed in some examples also, South Korea has developed a fuel cell based power plant itself for about 78 megawatt, and it was commissioned recently in October only. Similarly, other plant, they have around 76 megawatt, which is again commissioned recently. And these two countries, Japan and South Korea, have been on hydrogen missions since last more than 10 years. They had hydrogen policy much before than that, and they started acting on it. Similarly, Australia, Europe, and Saudi Arabia, and in US side, Canada, California, and in Canada. Lot of developments have taken place in this hydrogen in last 2-3 years. So India also has a good chance. Our BARC, this sentient lab, along with KPIT and other I mentioned about public sector companies, they are working, and some private companies also have entered. So a lot of work is being carried out. So India can have coalitions like ISA we just heard, International Solar Alliance. Such alliances are required so that hydrogen demand as well as production can be done in a more economic manner and more vast manner. Have I answered your query, Arvindji?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe if there is any other query, na, we please share. Like we have shared our email on the poster, so you can send us the emails. We can reply your emails as well.
Sure, we'll do that.
Yeah. I think there is no more questions because the person who have questions
Mr. Ashok
is
Kumar Dhingra has now downed his hand.
yeah. So I think, sir, we thank the speakers and Vashne ji, Kaustubh ji, and Datta sir, and all the audience for this for having taking lot of time to see the presentations which are very good and which will be good for the future as well. So I think we will have some more webinars on the topics, and we will send you all the attendees will get the certificate within a week. So, and there is no need for feedback. So we will send the certificate on email as well as on WhatsApp groups. And also you can join us on the Telegram group and YouTube channel so that you will get the updates on the future forthcoming webinars. So I think thank you very much to all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening and nice week.
Thank you. Thank you, Kaustubh. Bye bye.